What's up guys, it's Avery here. I like making money, but I never wanted to sell pictures of my feet online, nor did I want to let strangers ride in my car in exchange for a little bit of money. So 2 years ago, I figured the best way to make some extra cash would be buying rental properties. And I've lived in this particular rental property for 1 year, so now I'm allowed to move out per loan requirements, and simultaneously, I'm allowed to brag on YouTube about how much this rental property makes me. In a few days, I'm about to move out of this property and new tenants are moving in, so it will be fully rented out. And before I get into the story of this rental property and all of the numbers associated with it, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe if you haven't already done so, and tap that notification bell so you don't miss out on any tips for investing in real estate and things that you can do with your money to build your wealth. And don't forget to join my Patreon if you're interested in hanging out with me more and getting some more one-on-one help if that's what you're interested in. So in this video, I'm going to talk all about the story, how I found this rental property, and all of the numbers associated with it. And those are really going to be the only things that you guys care about, other than my smile. So this rental property was a really fun one. I purchased it right at the height of the pandemic in May 2020 when people were really uncertain about basically everything, and especially real estate, and wondering if their tenants were going to pay money. And I thought this was a great opportunity for me to get in as a low money down buyer using the FHA loan house hacking strategy. And if you want to learn more about that, check out the video up here or in the description below. But typically, if you're putting such little money down, you're not going to be as enticing to sellers to sell to. But because of the pandemic, there weren't that many people looking to buy right away because people were nervous about going outside of their house. I saw this as an awesome opportunity to look for some rental properties that I could purchase. And this particular rental property was very poorly advertised. It had been listed for $800,000 in January of 2020. It had a few price reductions as time went on, and when I went to look at it, it was $725,000, and I went and looked at it in the end of March, early April of 2020. I put an offer down for $678,000 with an $8,000 closing credit, which means that the loan is $678,000, but come closing day, I would get a check from the seller for $8,000 to pay towards my closing costs, which really helps you because closing costs can be a lot of money. So I could save those closing costs and then put them towards other upgrades that I had to do for the house, which is exactly what I did. So the reason that it was so poorly advertised was because the person that was selling it was an attorney. And nothing against this attorney, but I think they were just a friend of the seller, and then they just let the seller do everything in terms of the listing, take the photos, and then talk about the place and really market it. And they actually showed me around when I came to visit and look at the property to see if it was a good building to pursue. And really, because it was so poorly advertised, it seemed like a great property to pursue. And because it was listed way above what it was valued for, this made sense for me to come in and put an offer down for much less than what they were looking for. And they ended up accepting because they probably knew that they had kind of messed up and they had gone through this process of reducing the price so much, and they just wanted to get out and sell the building. So when I went to look at this building, it was fully tenanted. And one of those units of the 3-family building was occupied by the owner. So when I was going to be moving in and finally closing on the property, they would be moving out. So it worked perfectly for loan requirements, having to live here for 1 year. And the other units, there was a studio as well as a 2-bedroom apartment. So the studio was paying $1,500 a month, and the 2-bedroom apartment, well, originally the seller said that they were paying $2,200, then all of a sudden it was $2,000, and then I actually specifically talked to them and it was only $1,800. So it was $1,500 for the studio and $1,800 for the upstairs apartment. So that was pretty good going into it and looking at the purchase price and the interest rates that I could have gotten, as well as living in this 1-bedroom apartment that needed a little bit of repair and a little bit of love, which I was able to do, which was super fun, and I did some really awesome renovations. So with that purchase price and that 3.5% down, I had to pay $23,730 for that down payment. And because I had the closing credit, I only had to bring $670 to closing, which would pay for things like title fees, for the attorney, and any other associated related closing costs that are necessary when you're purchasing property. So really, out of pocket, it wasn't a crazy amount of money for an almost $750,000 home. In terms of the home quality and what I was looking for, it needed some value add. It looked like it had been pretty solidly taken care of, but not for the last 10 years. In 2009, it had been flipped completely, total gut rehab, new siding, vinyl windows, plumbing was updated, new HVAC systems, a lot of the good stuff that you want to see on a home in order for you to have less things to worry about. So I was super excited about that. But the funny thing about those people who flipped the home is they flipped it and bought it in 2007. So they actually bought it for over $200,000, fixed the entire place, put it from a really disgusting place to a really nice place to sell and for someone to own, and then sold it at an almost $100,000 loss. So really, that's how they messed up on this flip. Doesn't really matter for the story of this video anyway, but just something interesting to note. And after it was sold in 2009, 2 other owners occupied it until I took it over. And those 2 owners clearly did nothing in terms of maintenance. So when I took it over, there were a number of little things that I had to fix. So I had to change out some of the wood stilts in the basement to lally columns because those wood stilts will shrink. I had to add gutters because there was no gutters. I had to do some fixes to the roof because there was no ridge vent. I had to fix the front steps. I had to actually stain the deck because it was just full of mold and all this gross stuff. I had to change out some of the appliances that were broken. And the biggest story of all was the studio apartment. There was this crazy leak coming into the basement, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. And eventually realized it was coming from the ceiling of the studio apartment's bathroom. So I ended up completely gut rehabbing that bathroom, not myself. I had to pay someone else because there was a tenant living there at the time, and then they were able to stay at home for a little bit and I gave them some money back for rent. So it all worked out just fine. Got that leak fixed from the pipe in the wall, and it was crazy when the wall was open, someone turned on the tap. Essentially it was just showering into the walls. So it helped me sleep a lot better at night knowing that there was no longer that leak. Plus, even though I paid a lot of money for this bathroom to get finished, it is way nicer than it was before, and it increased the value of the home a lot more than the money that it cost to fix that bathroom. So with all that out of the way, after a couple of months of ownership, I was finally chilling, sitting on the couch, collecting that rent on the first of the month, not having to worry about too much maintenance, and the building was kind of running itself. So let's take a look at all of those numbers. So with my $678,000 purchase price, that left me with a $3,904 mortgage. And that was with a 2.75% interest rate, which is crazy low. So that $3,900 mortgage, I was getting $1,500 from the studio, $1,800 from upstairs, as well as $400 from Mia, the person who really gets me those house hacks to make the numbers the best. She is a really great girlfriend for all of that. So I was getting $3,700 and I had a $3,900 mortgage. And I'm claiming I'm living for free, so where the heck is this $200 coming from? And it's obviously not from YouTube revenue because I wasn't making YouTube videos yet. So actually, because of the way loans work, I closed on May 29th and my first mortgage payment was July 1st. But because I was already tenanted, I got $3,300 in June, as well as 3 days worth of rent, which was around $330 at that time. So I got about $3,600, which I've been able to spread out over the course of the year to pay for my own particular rent in quotes, to go towards that housing payment. So I haven't actually been paying it. It came originally from that first month of mortgage payment. If I ended up living here for longer, then I would have to start paying. So not bad in my books. I'm living for free and it's a pretty successful house hack. And not only did I go from a $678,000 appraisal at purchase price in May of 2020, if you look at today's current value, it is worth somewhere between $800,000 and $825,000. Now the Redfin estimate shows it at $836,000, but that stuff is absolutely worthless. When you're looking at your home's value, use actual raw data and real numbers, and don't just look at the estimate. They really just take into account an average of the area. They don't really think about the nuances of the home, nor do they know exactly how much work you've actually done. So if you want to determine your home's value, actually look at real information. I purchased this property a year ago, and not only has the value changed significantly, but the numbers for the property have also changed significantly. So now the moment you guys have all been waiting for, me telling you to smash the like button in order for you to show those numbers. So go ahead, scroll down, do that. All right, so looking at those final numbers as something I harp on all the time, it is not just the rent minus the mortgage. That is not real estate investing. There are a lot of other expenses associated with it. So make sure if you're getting into this real estate investing game, you understand all of the costs associated. The vacancy, the maintenance and repairs, the capital expenditures, utility bills, and really a whole other swath of things that come up every single month or every single year that will eat into the cost of owning rental property. So looking at my total rent, I was able to increase that studio rent from $1,500 to $1,550. Same tenant, only increased it $50, even though I did a lot of updates to that apartment because I really like them and I want to keep them in, didn't want the vacancy. The people upstairs ended up moving out, so I went from $1,800 and now I have a new tenant coming in for $2,000, and I myself am moving out, so someone will be moving into this one-bedroom apartment and paying $1,800. So if you add all of those numbers up, because you're really good at math, that equals $5,350. Good job. And now if you minus the mortgage from that, $5,350 minus $3,900, that leaves you with a little bit less money, and then also decrease the expenses from that, which I hold about $800 a month for expenses. So if you do all that math, $5,350 minus $3,900 minus $800, that is a $650 per month monthly cash flow, which is pretty good. I know it's not as good as the numbers of my duplex, and you're thinking, you have one extra unit, shouldn't the numbers be better? Well, it doesn't always work out like that. But in my books, this is a very successful rental property, and I only put that $23,000 to $24,000 down and have not spent a crazy amount of money renovating the place because I've done a lot of the work myself. So in terms of getting all of my cash back over time, as well as increased value, this really is another slam dunk in my opinion. Actually pretty funny, I was recently on a podcast and I let them know all the numbers of my rental property, and specifically with this property, they thought that I was making about $1,100 to $1,200 a month in cash flow. So it's funny when these people who actually write the book on house hacking are telling you that you're making more cash flow than you are. It's because people really don't understand the numbers. So make sure you understand those numbers and don't just think about what the rent is minus the mortgage, and then think that every property will have the same amount of expenses. If you account for more expenses than there actually are, then that's even better. You're making more money. But if you account for less expenses, you're going to be in for some real trouble and you're not really gonna know what you're doing. I hope you guys enjoyed that video and got some good motivation so you can buy your first rental property or your next rental property. And maybe you're going to start your own online feet picture business. I don't know, I might be doing that next. It all depends on how lucrative that it may be. So don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Thanks again for watching, and hope to see you guys next time.